What's going on, everyone? Welcome to Goal Line Extended on the Lacrosse Flash Podcast Network. I'm your host, Ryan Hulsebos, and I appreciate you all joining us for today's GLE Flash Special as Redwoods head coach Nat St. Laurent joins me as he continues to prepare for the 2021 season with PLO training camp now just a week and a half away. Coach St. Laurent, welcome to GLE. How are you doing today?
I'm pumped up. I'm glad to be here. I appreciate you guys having me on.
Absolutely. Glad to have you with us today, Coach, as we take a look at your team ahead of training camp, which you'll have the daunting task of getting down to 25-man roster, and then for each weekend to 19 players. You're currently at 30, so that's all according to my records, obviously. So something that you and your staff will figure out here over the next few weeks. Definitely a task that I would not want to be assigned, trying to figure out how to put together these lineups. But you're working with a ton of talent. I'd imagine that has to be really exciting.
Yeah, it's nerve-wracking, but it's really exciting because I think that this summer of lacrosse is going to be something that maybe hasn't been seen in pro lacrosse before with the amount of talent in this league. But yeah, from going to 30 to 25 is going to be tough, and then 25 to 19 is daunting because we have such good players, and we did our best as a staff to, make sure that training camp's ultra competitive.
Absolutely. That is really the one major word in all these interviews we've been doing kind of in the lead up to training camp: competitive. Make training camp as competitive as possible, up the competition. Hopefully that obviously, your team then come the season is playing really well. Coach, we're going to go talk mainly today about your Redwoods team. 2 years in a row now, coming up just short in the playoffs in overtime. Two great games, though, that we'll remember for a long time, centered around the start of the league, and then two games that should lay the groundwork for more great lacrosse here in 2021. But you're also the head coach at Division III Ohio Northern University, better known as ONU. Your team just a few weeks ago had its season come to an end in the OAC semifinals, a season that I would imagine had its ups and downs with everything going on, especially off the field, but only one game canceled. You were able to get the full season in, and after what happened last spring with the cancellation of the season, that's awesome, and we want to make sure that we congratulate you and your team on an awesome season. Lacrosse, with all the COVID protocols, what challenges did they pose, and what made this group of guys special in overcoming all those challenges?
Well, thanks for that and for recognizing it. We got a special group of guys here. We fell a little bit short of our goal, but we learned a lot about ourselves in the grand scheme of things. So what made our guys special was their commitment to one another. They were very committed to one another to do the right thing on and off the field. They made a lot of sacrifices, as much as they wanted the traditional college life. They also wanted to be able to play lacrosse, and they weren't going to get the traditional college experience and be able to play lacrosse. We had to be ultra conservative in what we were doing and make great decisions off the field, and they did it. And we played every game except for one, and that was no fault to our own, and it was just unfortunate events for our opponent that week. So we couldn't get that game in or make it up because of the playoffs. But extremely proud of our guys for everything that they accomplished, on and off the field. And we had a 3.1 team GPA and 20 kids on the dean's list and 7 4.0s, and just so proud of these guys with no COVID issues. Compared to some other places around the country, we're really fortunate.
Hey, that academic information there, that might even be more impressive than obviously finishing the season. Obviously, I've been saying the word daunting a lot here already, but daunting
right.
task that you had to get through this season. Definitely a lot of challenges there facing that your team, you and your team had to face. So definitely congratulations there on getting through the season, but a very challenging season, but also I'd have to imagine a rewarding season with everything that you and your team had to face. Again, we can congratulate your team on an awesome season. Your Redwoods team now, looking at your Redwoods team, obviously 2020, you guys played very well, 3-3 in the championship series, but you did get to the semifinal, came up just short in overtime again, as I mentioned before, but another great game. Kind of your team getting in these close games, unfortunately not coming out on top of the 2020 championship series in Utah. How was that experience for you and for your team?
Yeah, I think it was incredible for us to be there, what the league was able to pull off, to be able to play lacrosse, to give the country and the lacrosse world and anybody in general live sports, again, was important. So that experience was great. Losing to the Whipsnakes in overtime again, we've seen that movie. We're kind of sick of seeing it, but to their credit, they're a phenomenal team. They're well coached, and we felt like the guys played really well and did some great things. We just came up short in the end, and that's what happens when you get two great teams. The experience was amazing. It was gut-wrenching to lose. I felt terrible for my guys. I love our team, and everything that was going on in the world, and be able to go through the ups and the downs and be able to play lacrosse and be in the locker room again. It was special for sure. And now we know what we need to do, and we got a great opportunity to play, a season coming up here and go to training camp in just a few days here. And I'm excited to get around the guys and get after it.
Definitely excited there for training camp in Boston again, starting the Friday before Memorial Day weekend. So we're all very excited for that. You have that task, obviously, of trying to get your roster down to 25 players, but a lot of competition. Definitely an exciting time of the year here for you and your team. You made a handful of additions this offseason. Not too much there on your defensive end, but especially on your offensive end during this offseason. In the entry draft, you drafted Ryan Lee. In the college draft, you drafted midfielders Charlie Bertrand and Jamie Chimboli. Bertrand, a guy that can play some attack as well. He was a D2 Player of the Year last year. And then you made a trade for Rob Pennell, an attackman that should kind of be your quarterback here of your offense. You have a handful of really good attackmen here to go along with Ryder Garnsey, obviously Kavanaugh and Jules Henningberg. What's the plan in incorporating these offensive additions here that you brought in this offseason?
Yeah, so we felt like coming out of the bubble, we had some areas to address. A lot of people want to point out the face-off, and we weren't great at the face-off the last couple of years, and you can't really replace a Greg Grenley. And so we were searching there. But I also felt like the bigger concern for me was our offensive efficiency. We've had some phenomenal players, and what we did and were able to accomplish in the bubble speaks volumes of just how tough our team is, especially at that attack position with, Clark Peterson out there, who unfortunately lost to expansion, but having Ryder and Cav, we didn't have Jules Henningberg, and Jules Henningberg was the second leading goal scorer in the PLL the year before. So we're excited to get Jules back. Most importantly, he's healthy. It was a very scary situation with COVID, and to see where some of his levels were and the numbers that we were getting when we were trying to see if he could play or not. So grateful and thankful, first and foremost, that he's healthy and made full recovery. So excited to get Jules back. He's been working his tail off. So we'll probably see him play a lot of midfield. He's so dynamic. I think we've got a midfield of, Perkovic and Miles Jones. Now you throw in Jules Henningberg, and we still have, the Joel Walters of the world, the Kyle Harrisons, two of the greatest to ever play the game up there. And we're bringing in Bertrand, who I think, the fact that we got him when we did was a steal. So excited for him. And then obviously, Trimboli, we saw what he did the other night and ripping off a couple goals when his team was trying to get back into that game. So really excited about those moves, excited about the offensive side. So what can you expect to see? Rob's our balance. He's understanding that he's a veteran. He's won gold medals. He's won at the highest level. He's going to hopefully secure some possessions for us where we had some untimely turnovers, and we were just asking so much of Ryder and Cav last year. It was almost unfair to those two. But so bringing him in is going to settle us down. It's going to make the ball not be so fixated on the left side. And we bring in an ex-attackman who's very comfortable back there, throwing the ball up top to some two-point shooters. Harrison hit some two-pointers for us, and then we got the two big dogs up there. So, we're going to be able to stretch the field, and then you bring in Ryan Lee, who led the other league in scoring. We think we're going to pose quite the threat for teams to try to defend us.
Trying to get as many offensive weapons out there. Again, as you're saying, Jules may be running at midfield. So we could possibly be seeing an offensive six of something like Kavanaugh, Ryder Garnsey, Rob Pennell, Jules at midfield, and then Jones and Perkovic up there as well. You're saying those big, 2-point monsters. That's scary thinking about
Right.
that alignment there. I don't know how, who do you short stick in that situation? Kind of the questions that come up.
Yeah, that's what I like. I'm glad I don't have to figure that out. Our biggest thing is to make sure that we understand that there is one ball out there. We've already been having offensive discussions, and they've got their own group chats, and we've had team Zooms, and it's feeling great. I think we're just excited to get there and play, and make sure it's about us. Everybody talks, oh, you were so close, and oh, you just need to get the face-off stuff. Oh, you got Rob Pennell. We were quick to let Rob know we're not bringing him in here to win us a championship. I think there's too much pressure on these players to do that kind of stuff. That's not what we're asking Rob to do. We're asking Rob to be Rob. And when Rob is Rob and having fun, he makes everybody around him better. And we already know that our cast makes each other better. We felt like we were a championship contending team prior to making all of these moves. So we're just excited to get everybody in, get us on the same page. And we've got a tough task. You use that word daunting, but to play 2 games, opening weekend, right out of training camp, that's a tall ask, but you know, we're the Redwoods, and we're going to find a way to rise to that challenge.
Oh yeah, you have those doubleheader sort of weekends twice this season. Every team plays those doubleheader weekends twice. For your team, as you just said, in week 1 and then in week 8, you'll be finishing the season with one of those doubleheaders. So kind of looking at the schedule, kind of how it's laid out, and then looking back there at 2020, kind of with how the championship series was laid out. How do you expect your team's success from the tournament to carry over here, kind of in these 2 games per weekend kind of setup that we have here with the schedule?
Right. I think our team is built on grit and toughness. You know, if you watch us play, that's something that we do well. You know, we're never out of the game, and people, you know, I think one of the broadcasts, you know, I said during halftime, we're right where we need to be. And I think we were getting beat pretty good. You know, we're okay. We're in a decent enough situation. And Paul Burmeister and Ryan Boyle kind of made the comment during the game that they looked at each other kind of like, what's this guy talking about? And I think we won that game, or we ended up losing by a goal. So, you know, we know we're never out of it. We've made the adjustments that we need to make, and we've got a great locker room, and, you know, we'll be ready to go for those tough weekends where, you know, the grittiness and the game planning and you know, attention to detail is going to be so important. Our guys are full of all of that. They got a ton of grit, ton of toughness, and, you know, they execute game plans to a T, and, you know, they have fun doing so. So I think those weekends it's not easy. I think we've got the Cannons and then Chrome, you know, the first one, and then on the back end, it's the Whip Snakes and the Chaos. So, you know, teams that have been playing for, you know, 2 teams that have played for PLL championships, we get them at the back end, and then we get the new team, which they'll be buzzing, right? You know, Paul's back home, and the Cannons, and we'll be playing in Gillette with that Boston fan base. And then, you know, what Coach Sudo's been able to do with the Chrome and get those guys glued together. They were one of the best teams in the bubble, in my opinion. So, you know, no game is easy. That's going to be something you hear all the time, but we got our hands full, but, you know, that's what we're doing. We're at the highest level, and, you know, we like to think we're pretty good too and up for the challenge.
Absolutely. And then week 1, you'll be going up against a guy named Lyle Thompson, who'll be making his PLL debut. Matt Landis, he didn't play last season due to the military. He had a military, obviously, obligations for last summer, wasn't available. What's his status looking like for this summer? Obviously, being that you're going to be going up against Lyle Thompson there week 1, kind of something nice that you'll be able to know if you have Landis available.
Yeah, you know, I thought we did pretty well without Matt, for sure, in the bubble. Matt's doing the most honorable thing, in my opinion, serving our great nation and doing big things there. So he's got to focus on that. And when we can get him to and play him, we will. That's for sure. But you know, if not, you know, we don't think we have any third defenders. You know, we got Garrett Uppel, Eddie Glazner, and obviously, you know, we've got Finn now, and I think all 3 of those guys can cover anybody. And you know, our scheme, and we protected everybody on purpose on our defense because we think that highly of them, and we wanted to keep that continuity. And listen, you know, Miles is there, and Miles is a heck of a player, but they've got a lot of weapons all over the field, and you know, it's going to be a challenge, you know. But Friday Night Lights, game 1, opening night in Gillette Stadium, like, you know, the boys are going to be buzzing on both sides, and what a way to start and kick off, you know, the PLL's 3rd season.
Absolutely. Cannot ask for anything better than that. And then in losing Landis last season, Finn Sullivan did play a very, very key role there on your defense there down low. So we'll see how that continues into this season. You added Isaiah Davis-Allen to run as a short stick defensive midfielder. You have a handful of short stick defensive midfielders on your roster right now. So we'll see kind of come the end of training camp who kind of makes it through there, kind of makes it through the cracks. Let's look at your face-off situation. You brought it up before. You made 2 additions here in the college draft. Obviously, T.D. Irwin, 4th overall. That looked like a no-brainer. Kind of looking at this months ago, we said, oh, if T.D. Irwin falls to 4, then that should be a no-brainer. Charlie Leonard, you grab him with the last selection of the draft. Kind of, again, competition, bringing back that word competition, creating competition here in camp and then throughout the season. What do you expect these 2 guys to do in terms of just creating competition for this face-off unit?
Yeah. So I think right away they're just going to elevate that position for our team. You know, just, you know, Peyton did a good job last year. You know, let's not forget what he had to battle through, right? His season in college got ripped away from him. Okay. And then, oh, by the way, you're going to go play in the bubble. You're not going to get a training camp like everybody else has had in the past. It's going to be abbreviated. And welcome to the league, rookie. Your first game's against Joe Nardella, who's the best face-off in the league right now. So, you know, so we have faith in him. And Greg Pasculjian's been on my team where we've won professional championships before. His college team just won the national championship this past weekend at the JUCO level. So we know that, Charlie and TD are going to obviously right away enhance that position and make the competition ultra competitive. Last night we saw TD. He didn't lose a face-off in the second half, and we're excited about that for sure. And, Charlie, I think Charlie Leonard isn't talked about enough because he can go knee down, he can go standing, and he's athletic. He scored goals for Notre Dame, and they've got quite the 1-2 combo. So he's going against Gallagher every day at practice. So we're really excited for both of those two. Disappointed for TD that it ended the way it did last night, an incredible lacrosse game, but excited to have him at training camp. And, we hope Charlie and the Irish can win a national championship, and we'll get him when he's ready. But we have a lot of faith in anxious to see what that's going to look like here at training camp.
Absolutely. And you have a handful of talented players still in the tournament. Charlie Bertrand, one of them, he's still in the tournament there with Virginia. So, yeah, we will hope that Charlie Leonard continues here with Notre Dame. We actually just interviewed Matt Dunn, former Maryland Pole. He was kind of obviously on the other side there of that. But Charlie Leonard with Notre Dame, obviously this weekend against Maryland, hoping to get the win there. But your face-off situation definitely upgraded from last year. You're going in with 4 guys to training camp. What do you think kind of coming out of training camp, obviously with the roster restrictions, what's kind of the mindset right now in terms of how many face-off guys you'll bring with you into the season? And then kind of the thought is, you'll bring 2 into each game weekend. But kind of coming out of training camp, you have 4 guys. We don't want to, obviously we don't want to have you make a decision here, but kind of what's the thought there with these 4 face-off guys?
We're gonna it's open. We're gonna name a starter, and we're gonna let these guys have as much as a chance to compete against one another as possible. And we understand that we can only keep X amount of players. And you know what? If that winds up keeping 4 face-off guys, then we have to do that in the best interest of our club. Then we'll do it. But ideally, we're going to find the best face-off guy that gives our offense a chance to win, gives our defense a break. We've already seen how good our defense is in the last couple of seasons, and you can't help but think how much better they will be if we can be above that 35%, which we've been right around the last 2 seasons. So, the best player is going to play that gives our team a chance to win. And, if that's dressing 2 face-off guys in a weekend, we'll do it. If it's 1, we'll dress 1. But the person who's going to give us the best opportunity to win is going to be on the field for the Redwoods.
Absolutely. That's obviously what we are hoping for. TD Ierlan, I believe he's somewhere around like 70% for his career. So as you're saying, hoping to bring up that 35% clip with the other guys on this face-off roster. Looking at your goalie situation, you bring in Brian Phipps this offseason to compete at camp with Tim Troutner, and we'd imagine Jack Kelly. Still some question marks around his availability. Anything that you can clear up around him for us?
Yeah, there's no question about Jack's availability anymore. He has been taking shots. He's working now. He's back into playing form. And I'm just so happy for him, because it is, he's one of the best in the world, arguably one of the best to probably ever do it. Potentially, he's got to be in the top 10. But he, for him, it's just been such a tough road, like just knee surgery. And I think he's had 2 of them now. And, the devastation over in Israel, and then to come back and not be able to take part in that first season. And then, but he's feeling good now. He's persevered, and I'm just so thrilled to see him at training camp. And boy, are we going to have our hands full, bringing in Phipsy. We had Brian with us out in Ohio for a year. He's a veteran that we know can save the ball and run a defense. He's the guys love him already in the locker room. How do you not? So we got 3 goalies that we know are going to absolutely compete with one another. And again, we want competition, and boy, are we going to have it.
Brian Phipps coming in as a guy that you used to coach. Tim Troutner, your starting goalie over the past 2 seasons, and Jack Kelly, who some are saying, as we just brought up here, some are saying that he is the best goalie in the world. So we will see. Again, a daunting task for you to try to figure out how you go about.
All good problems to have.
Yeah, a lot of good problems to have for you, Coach St. Laurent. Obviously, 3 goalies, 4 face-off specialists, so that's 7 specialists in total. We can't imagine you bring all 7 of those guys, so definitely a daunting task there for you, having to bring that roster number down. But, Coach, I want to thank you so much for joining me today. An absolute pleasure having you on for today's Flash Special. Before I let you go, we are looking at 4 great quarterfinal matchups this weekend in the NCAA tournament. Any team or teams in particular that you've enjoyed watching this season that you are behind right now in this tournament?
Well, first of all, Coach Tillman's done an incredible job with that Maryland team. They're so fun to watch. But, we're the Redwoods, and we got quite the connection up there in South Bend. And I think that team is good enough to beat anybody in the country. And, I've already joked with coaches around the league. I'll trade all my picks now to get the #1 pick. So when, Pat Cavanaugh comes out, I can get him. But, that team is loaded. They've got everything you need to win a championship. I mean, it's unfortunate, in my opinion, that those two teams have to play each other, this early in the tournament. Because, I could see that being a national championship level type of game. And obviously Lars is phenomenal with UVA, and we want all that stuff to work out. But, great games this weekend. Excited for another weekend of great games right in our backyard. So I'm excited to get over to South Bend and watch some future Redwoods play and bring my son to his first ever NCAA tournament game. So we're really fired up about that. But, it's going to be fun to sit back and watch.
Had to look around there for a sec. Who do you like in this one? Notre Dame. Definitely Notre Dame. Definitely Notre Dame.
Yeah, Maryland is so good. And they've got so many. It's going to be a game that I can't wait to sit down and watch on Sunday and be there in person and just to feel the excitement and watch these athletes compete. And, two phenomenal coaches. It's going to be a game that I'm super pumped to watch. And then I get to leave the next week for training camp. So we are fired up for this opportunity and, excited to watch these games.
Absolutely. Very excited for that. You have a handful of Notre Dame guys on your team, especially you got Notre Dame guys currently playing right now that will be joining your team very soon, and then Charlie Burchan with Virginia. So obviously backing those two teams as we get down here to quarterfinal weekend. Very excited for it. Coach St. Laurent, I want to thank you so much for joining me, the head coach of the PLO's Redwoods Lacrosse Club, ready to get after it in 2021, opening the season with a doubleheader against the Cannons and Chrome in Boston. Again, very excited for it. For everyone watching, thank you for tuning in, and make sure to subscribe to Lacrosse Flash on YouTube for more awesome content with the 2021 season, quickly approaching. I hope you all have a great day, and we will talk to you next time. Coach St. Laurent, thank you again for joining me.
Yeah, my pleasure. Roll Woods.
Roll Woods.